ICE is running around the loop harassing people for not being white. Just a year ago, that was illegal in the United States. Now, ICE is making it commonplace.
Yes, Democrat, the corpulent Illinois Democrat governor who inherited billions and billions of dollars. J.B. Pritzker, it's the cops are the bad guys and the killers are the good guys. Keep that in mind. They're the Democrat Party, bringing anarchy and mayhem, bedlam to a town near you. Perhaps your town. I don't want to work. I just want to play. I want to bang on the drum all day. Well, a very happy Tuesday to you, and welcome back. We have a lot going on in Washington, D.C. We got a government shutdown scheduled for tonight. Is that correct, Michael? Does I have that correct? It's scheduled for tonight. It's midnight tonight. I think is that Eastern time? I believe that's Eastern time. I love a good government shutdown. I'll look forward to lighter traffic tomorrow, and everything should be better. When you live in Washington, D.C., you're immediately and directly impacted by a government shutdown because it's like driving into work on a Sunday when there's a government shutdown. It makes it better and more fun. It's the times are good in Washington, D.C. when the government is shut down. It's not that people become polite or anything like that. It's just that there are fewer rude people. It's full of Democrats, and there's a little death takes a holiday, too, factor to it all, because when the city slows down because of government shutdown, lives are saved. Democrats don't care about that, of course, because they're the ones shooting everybody, but never mind that. But a lot less crime and mayhem and murder goes down because it's not the government employees per se, but changes the nature of the city. We've got a lot going on here to talk about. President Trump winning another lawsuit. How many lawsuits has he won against media types and social media types? There's still media types. But we've got another one. YouTube yesterday agreed to pay President Trump $24.5 million to pay President Trump personally $24.5 million in a settlement because they suspended him. They gave him a sentence and all of that. And it's not the first settlement that he has won from crooked, sinister, communist, left-wing propagandists and fake media types. The Democrat Party is everywhere. Their tentacles are everywhere, like the reptiles that they. Oh, speaking of reptiles, I was watching the news this morning, and on Capitol Hill there was the Democrat leader Hakeem, the anti-Semite. He's like a Nazi, Jew hater, raised by a famous anti-Semite, his uncle, Professor Leonard Jeffries. And he was there at the microphone, and he was being creepy, and he's got this creepy, obsequious, fake smile and creepy eyes. And he was lying about the government shutdown, and the Republicans control the House, so it's their fault. And now they firebomb the synagogue because they're the Democrat Party and all that. And standing to his right on screen left, there's the Lizard King. In his natural condition. And that's Chuck Schumer, of course, the Lizard King. And I was watching it, and I was laughing, and I came in, and I said to Michael Piercy, I want to watch this video with you because, we're in radio, so we do audio mostly. I don't have to walk around the back of the desk and look at the computer screen to see what the video looks like because I'm listening to it, and we're in radio, so that's usually okay. But I circled around because this morning I spotted the Lizard King being particularly reptilian. And sure enough, there is Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, standing, flanking the anti-Semite Jeffries, Hakeem. Why is his name Hakeem anyway? Was he born in the desert? Was he under a tent with a camel? What's going on with that? But Hakeem, he's there lying to everybody, and there's Chuck Schumer, and Chuck Schumer's his tongue is flickering out of his lips again and again. And years ago, I named him the Lizard King because I spotted him doing this reptilian tongue thing. And yesterday, when he was on stage here in Washington, D.C. He was lying, too, lying about the government shutdown that the Democrats are orchestrating. But they're doing it with the collusion of their media allies with whom they sleep. And they get all lubed up and get in the sleeping bag together. They're not, and of course, the hot tub. They love the hot tub together as well. It's a circle fest in a hot tub. But the Lizard King yesterday, his tongue was flickering out of his mouth, just between his pursed lips, and it's like right in the center, and then a little to the left, and then a little to the right, and his tongue, just the tip of his tongue coming out of his lips and flickering. And that's because he's the Lizard King. And I'm going to want it when we get everything together. And a team of 120 people, actually there are two of us. There are two of us doing the radio show. And Michael Piercy is sitting across from me in the studio at the big board. He's at the big board. Can't let him in here. They'll see the big board. And he controls all things technical. And then I do most of the talking. And there are two of us. If we were at NPR, we'd have 33 people for this is literally true, for a 3-hour show, team of 33 because it's on the taxpayer teat. You know what I'm talking about there. And isn't that amazing? And that's one of the things that the Lizard King and the anti-Semite Hakeem, that's one of the things that they're demanding. Otherwise, there's going to be a government shutdown. $500 million of our dollars, to continue to fund the Democrat Party's propaganda network, which is National Panhandler Radio and the Corporation for Panhandling. What is it? CPB, Corporation for Panhandling Broadcasting. The CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and National Panhandler, National Public Radio. He's demanding $500 million, and he's got a gun to the baby's head, and he's pulled the hammer back, and the Lizard King, the tip of his tongue is flickering around between his skinny city lips. Have you noticed he's got the skinny city lips and his tongue flickering? And they're demanding, I think over 10 years, it's $1.5 trillion be built in. They should go to penitentiaries for this stuff. These people are the biggest kleptocrats on the planet Earth. And most countries don't have the kind of money that we have. How do you think we got to be $37 trillion in debt? Well, just look at Hakeem, the anti-Semite, and the Lizard King. Look at them yesterday, and it will essentially explain the $37 trillion in debt. They're criminals, I think, is the word that I'm looking for. Greedy, selfish, dishonest, and just fundamentally criminal behavior from these people. So we've got that going. And the government shutdown. Little Timmy's scout troop won't be able to walk into Jellystone Park. The Hefta was talking about this yesterday when the Democrats under Barack Hussein Obama shut down the government and then blamed the Republicans. And the media said, yeah, let's blame the Republicans. And they shut down the World War II memorial on the Mall in Washington, which is an outdoor memorial, by the way. It's more outdoor than the Jefferson Memorial or the Lincoln Memorial. It's entirely outdoors. And they shut it down on World War II veterans. And then they sent teary-eyed, fake, dishonest reporters down to the World War II memorial to stand there and say, oh, no, these World War II veterans that came in on an honor flight can't get in to the World War II memorial, which is outdoors. There's no place to go in. And they were teary-eyed and they're like, damn Republicans, shut down the government. Timmy's scout troop can't get into Jellystone Park, and the boys of Point to Huck can't get into the World War II memorial. And the reason, and you couldn't get in, the World War II vets couldn't, that flew in from around the country on honor flights, actually could not get in to the World War II memorial because Barack Hussein Obama shut it down, even though it's outdoors, which means they had to bring in twice as many people. Normally you'll find 3, maybe 4, but it'll be amazing to find 4 U.S. Park Service people at the World War II memorial to tell you about it and stuff. And they're great. They're wonderful people. But there were none of them there. But they brought in twice as many people, at 10 people, Park Service people, to set up barricades around the World War II memorial and police tape, that yellow police tape, do not enter and stuff. And it took twice as many people to shut it down as it would have taken just to leave it open. And then the news media lied. They just all lied. They went down there and they lied and they lied and they lied. Then they went home and lied to their wives and they lied to the IRS and they just... it's just amazing stuff. They lied. The news media, they came out and they lied. And this is, the Democrats like this. It's their wheelhouse, just lying to everybody about everything. And the Lizard King goes along with it, and Hakeem the anti-Semite goes along with it. And the entire Democrat Party is like, well, what's the big lie today? We've all got to get on board this lie train. And they always do. It's kind of amazing. They goose step with one another, hobnail boots, and a lot of them dress in ladies' clothes now. Have you seen that? Goose stepping around in ladies' clothes, a little weird, but not entirely, not too weird. I'm telling you, I was in Chicago over the weekend, and I was on the North Shore of Chicago over the weekend. And one of the things I was reminded of was a massacre in Highland Park, Illinois, several years ago now, on the 4th of July by a lunatic who went up to a rooftop with a rifle and shot and killed 7 people, 4th of July parade, because he wasn't raised to be patriotic. He was raised by Democrats. And it turns out that gunman, he was dressed in ladies' clothes. He was dressed in, but then you find 1,000 stories that say he was not transgender. He was just dressed like a lady on the roof when he was shooting people. Just dressed like a woman, but not transgender. They want to get all technical on you because, they're cross-dressing at home too, I guess, and they don't want to be labeled anything like that. Isn't it amazing? Yes, it is. Boy, oh boy. So we've got a lot. The big government, the looming government shutdown, and all that. And speaking of Democrats dressed like ladies, a lot of transgender violent attacks lately. And this was before the trend in Highland Park, Illinois, north of Chicago. That was before the trend of Democrat transgender mass murderers. And we had the Catholic school in Minneapolis recently where the transgender guy showed up and shot the 2 school children while praying in the Catholic church at the Catholic school during Mass because they were just back to school, and he wounded a whole lot more people, and he was a transgender person and all that, and it's a big trend. And then we had, of course, the attack, 4 people murdered and 8 people injured just Sunday, day before yesterday in Michigan. And the Democrats trying desperately to blame. He's got a Trump sign in his front yard with a stop sign, and maybe we were talking about it yesterday. And there's some ambiguity, but it may be that he had a Trump sign in his front yard. It's possible. Then a picture emerged from 2019 that appears to show the killer wearing a Trump T-shirt. And the news media, including Eric Swalwell, who is under the control of the Chinese Communist Party, and his girlfriend Fang Fang, he reposted the photo of the killer wearing a Trump T-shirt. And it's like, boy, are they relieved. They got one they can try to pin on somebody else. The other guy, and they love to do that. They love to, Republicans are the prime drivers of terrorist violence in the United States of America, as long as you don't count all the political violence in the United States of America. But never mind that, because I pointed this out on my television show last night too, but the mad killer at the Mormon church in Michigan murdered 4 people and wounded 8 more. And it's a horrible massacre, and it's the lead story on every network news program. It's on the front page of every paper because the psychopath showed up and murdered 4 people and wounded 8 more. And you know what I did? I did something crazy. I went to the internet. Have you looked at this internet? It's pretty amazing. But I went to the internet and yesterday, Monday, and I asked the internet, hey, Chicago weekend violence. And you'll never believe it, but it didn't make news anywhere in America. And the headline is from CBS News, 4 dead, 12 hurt in Chicago weekend shootings, police say. But wait a minute. Why isn't that in the news? And the reason is because that's normal. That's an ordinary weekend in Chicago. In fact, a lot of weekends are much worse than that. Very often 8 killed, 6 killed, plus, 22 shot and all that. But the same weekend where there was a massacre that captured the attention of all of the United States of America, there were horribly 4 people murdered at the Mormon church and 8 people wounded. And at the same time in Chicago, it was deadlier or bloodier. 4 dead, same number dead, 12 hurt, 8 hurt in the mass shooting, 8 wounded in the mass shooting at the Mormon church in Michigan. And in Chicago, 4 dead, 12 hurt over the weekend is perfectly typical, normal, average, not news. The networks did not lead with 4 people murdered, 12 people wounded in Chicago, all in gun violence. Isn't that amazing? And that's normal. The Democrats have made that normal. And guess who's doing all the shooting? Nobody wearing Trump shirts. Not a single person wearing a Trump shirt. 4 dead, 12 wounded. So the massacre in Chicago was actually bigger than, same number killed, 50% more shot and wounded, and not news. Why is that? Well, maybe it's because the mayor is a Democrat and the governor is a Democrat, and they defund the police and they vilify the police and they glorify crime and criminals because they're Democrats. Also, we have Democrats hate ICE. We got that today. I'm not talking about in your cocktails either. Moronic Democrats. I've got a golf story for you. And the weather. The weather versus Barack Obama versus the weather. We're at 888-630-9625. All right, I've got a lot of news. Second person, when the Democrat showed up at the ICE facility in Dallas and with his rifle and shot the place up because he was trying to murder federal law enforcement officers and federal agents because the Democratic Party instructed the weak-minded loon to do that. Oh, we've got an update about him, too. Apparently, he spent his whole life smoking dope and not getting mellow, I guess. Not getting mellow. But the lunatic Democrat that went to the ICE facility in Dallas and shot the place up because he wanted to kill federal law enforcement at the instruction of the Democrat Party. He murdered 1 and wounded 2, and they were illegal aliens that he shot and killed 1 illegal alien and wounded 2 more. Well, a second illegal alien that he shot has died. They had to pull him off of life support, and this morning we learned that a second illegal alien that he shot has died, and Angel Garcia Hernandez, 32 years old, succumbed to his injuries after being removed from life support following the September 24th shooting on the Dallas ICE facility by the Democrat who then shot himself. Isn't that amazing? Just the Democrat Party being the Democrat Party. They're a violent, criminal, probably terrorist organization, I think it would be fair to say. Who's killed more people in political violence in the United States in the last 5 years? ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or the Democrat Party? I believe I know the answer to that. Also, I've got a story for you here. My friend Matthew Foldy sent this along this morning. Great story from the Washington Free Beacon. Washington Free Beacon. Picture of a woman who appears to be an African-American woman, but you can't tell anymore because of Democrats. Politico reporter who said she cried over Trump's election now covers his presidency. All right, now, again, I mentioned my friend Matthew Foldy texted me. We're texting back and forth this morning. He sent along a great news story from the Washington Free Beacon. Their subhead is covering the enemies of freedom the way the mainstream media won't. That's good, the Washington Free Beacon. And the Washington Free Beacon is great. And their headline is just a wonderful headline because it's a true story. And September 29 of 2025, Politico report. Politico's an alleged newspaper in Washington. It's another Democrat Party circle fest in a hot tub, and they're all in there together. Politico reporter who said she cried over Trump's election now covers his presidency. And Foldy sent this with a caption using my turn of phrase. It's good to be a Democrat. Now, listen to this. Cheyenne Daniels. Cheyenne Daniels is a woman of color. I wouldn't say that if it weren't the centerpiece of her existence, but it is, and her career. Cheyenne Daniels, a woman of color, who joined Politico after left-wing newspaper Washington online presence. The rest of the news media loves Politico. After covering the 2024 presidential election for The Hill, another newspaper in Washington, also suggested that both Trump and his voters believe that black women, quote, shouldn't exist, end quote. Now, this is the woman that's covering the White House under President Trump for what might be considered a major newspaper in Washington, D.C., Politico. And she said that President Trump himself, believed that women, black women, women of color, WOC, shouldn't exist. And that his voters, 74 million voters, believe that black women shouldn't exist. But what about black men? What about if you think black women shouldn't exist? Then I just don't understand. That's sexist. And the story, Colin Anderson writing the story for the Washington Free Beacon. As a master's student at Northwestern University's esteemed journalism school in 2020, Cheyenne Daniels revealed that she cried when President Donald Trump was elected 4 years earlier, 2016. It was one of the funniest nights in the history of the United States of America. I woke up my best girl, I think, at 3 a.m. so we could just sit up in bed and laugh and eat Doritos or something. And we laughed and laughed and laughed. And then we watched the people crying at the New York, where was it in New York? The Javits Center. And they were crying, and it was really men, like grown, well, they're, grown men is using the term loosely, crying and sobbing. And this lady she was getting her master's in journalism, presumably at the journalism school in Northwestern, which used to be very highly regarded. And she cried when President Trump was elected 4 years earlier in 2016 because she knew, quote, horrible things were to come, end quote. And then there were 35 shootings in Chicago that weekend. Northwestern University is right there in Evanston, Illinois, just on the northern edge of the city of Chicago. But that's not something horrible. She now covers the Trump presidency for Politico. Cheyenne Daniels joined the outlet Politico as a breaking news reporter in May of this year, following 3 years, a 3-year stint as, listen to this, a race and politics reporter. That's her title. And it doesn't say the race and politics reporter. It says a, as though they had more than one race and politics reporter for The Hill, where she covered both the 2024 election and stories like John Boyega, Star Wars, the whitest elite space. Star Wars, it's in outer space, and it's the whitest. They got aliens from all over the galaxy. What are you talking about? A lot of non-white people. They're aliens from another galaxy, but that's not important. And also I'm looking at this, and I was reading it this morning, and I said, well, following a 3-year stint as a, not the, race and politics reporter, shouldn't it be race and genitalia and politics reporter? Should it be like the triad? Because it's all about all of it, isn't it? I mean, you don't want to be sexist about it, do you, Cheyenne Daniels? Is that your stripper name, or what's going on? Hey, Cheyenne, what's going on with that? And then amazing. Oh, speaking of which, my best girl and I, over the weekend, I mentioned we were in Chicago. We were on the North Shore of Chicago. And my brother and his wife took us to a really fun breakfast place. And the breakfast place is a farm, really. It's out on a farm. And they have all kinds of things going on at the farm, including, well, they have chickens, and their eggs from the chickens, as you might imagine, are used at the restaurant there for breakfast. And they have ducks at the farm, and they use the duck eggs for baking stuff. I know because I asked. And I was looking at this, all the animals, and they have goats. Goats. I said, goats, what are they doing with goats? They have those? Are they on the menu too? And, well, maybe occasionally they might be on the menu. But the goats were there, and I went over, and there were kids there too, and said, hey, come visit the goats. I'm like, okay, let's visit the goats. Can we sacrifice any of them? We might want to maybe have some kind of a ritualistic thing since there are goats here. And I'm feeling a little bit Middle Eastern today. But we went over to visit the goats, and with the kids, and the goats, they're the goats, and they're in kind of a large fenced-in area, but they're mellow, they're having fun, hanging out. And then they have all the goats are named. They have names. I didn't tell you about this, did I? And I looked at the names of the goats. They had little plaques for the goats. And the goats, they had how many? 5? Well, they had 6 goats, but 5 were female goats, and one was a male goat. One was a male goat, and he had a big smile. He was sitting over in the corner. He had a big smile, that goat. But the goats were named, listen, the 5 lady goats, they were named Barbie, Dee Dee, Bambi, Lulu, and Tish. And Tish. And I came back to the grown-ups and I said, well, why do all the goats have stripper names? What's going on with that? And then the one man goat is named Prince. And Prince is like the pimp of the goat walk over there. Yeah, Barbie, Dee Dee, Bambi, Lulu, and Tish are the names of the female goats. And I'm like, they should have torn fishnet stockings and lipstick, kind of like, what was her name? Yeah, Vicky the goat. Yeah, that's right, Vicky the goat. Now, is that whose goat was Vicky's? It was Harry Reid's goat, Vicky, who would dress in torn fishnet stockings and lipstick and hang out around Harry Reid's office, if I remember that correctly, and I do. So that was just kind of a fun moment. But I got to say, this woman who is covering the White House for Politico, what is up with that? She cried the night that Donald Trump was elected, and now she covers the White House. And this is what you get when you're a Republican president or Republican politician. And when you're a Democrat, you know what you get? These lady reporters with smeared lipstick and torn fishnet stockings that come in and try to coo and woo. Isn't that amazing? Her reporting is now largely focused on the White House, the subject of several of her posts on social media. November 7th of 2020, the day the Associated Press called the election for Joe Biden, Daniels tweeted, 4 years ago, I cried when I realized Donald Trump had been elected, knowing horrible things were to come. Now, I'm in my apartment in D.C., hearing people cheering in the streets, screaming that he's been defeated, and I'm crying once again, but for a very different reason. She sounds rather emotionally unstable, doesn't she? I just want to let you know out there in Washington, if you run into Cheyenne Daniels, she's appears to be an attractive young woman based on the photograph here. Stay away from her. She's very mentally unstable and a political fanatic, a political extremist. I'm crying once again, but for a very different. And this is a White House correspondent for a major newspaper, and this is just fine. Just fine. That's because the news media is the most corrupt institution in the United States of America. This is just one more example. 1 week later, Cheyenne Daniels' euphoria seemed to fade. Trump may have lost the election, she wrote, but over 70 million people voted for him. I think more than 74 million, but who's counting? It's just a rounding error, 74 million versus 70 million. And some of those voters were people who felt like they're demagogue, that my life as a black woman doesn't matter. What are you? You're mentally ill. I don't think all black women are mentally ill, but I do think that you're mentally ill and you're a black woman. That I shouldn't exist. I threaten the purity of white power. This is what she wrote. All right. I got to tell you, the Democrats aborted 40% of the black population last year so that there's more parking. That's what their explanation. They say, well, more parking for everyone. Isn't that good? And, the Democrats with their judicial reform landed a great many more black people in prisons. And you remember Joe Biden, who you're so thrilled became president here, made crack cocaine imprisonable, but powdered cocaine, while his son was just doing powdered cocaine, not something that you go to prison for, because the Biden family is racist and corrupt. And also, he's got a long history of racism and all kinds of levels. You can't go to a 7-Eleven unless you have a slight Indian accent. He's not kidding. And he, he had the kids, what did he call them, cockroaches, that when he was allegedly a lifeguard, and he had the hair on his legs, and the little black kids would crawl up. And then there was, who was it that had the sharp razor that he had to straighten up? Remember? Who was that? Huh? It was Corn Pop. Come on. Is Corn Pop serving in the administration now, Cheyenne?
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Yeah, and because 74 million people felt that the election of Joe Biden threatened their white power, the purity of their white power. This is what the Democrat Party has done to the United States of America. They're, by the way, the party of the bullwhip, the plantation, of slave rape, of lynching black men from trees. That's all on the Democrat Party. And they're fine with that because now they're all better. The Post raised questions about Politico's decision to hire Cheyenne Daniels for a role that, at least for the next 3 years, revolves around coverage of the Trump White House and ostensibly requires neutrality. Oh, don't be silly. I know he's just being ironic here, but in the last week alone, Daniels has covered everything from the White House's comments on a potential government shutdown, all the Democrats' fault, but it won't be in her typing, to Trump's attempts to end Russia's war on Ukraine. In June, Cheyenne Daniels penned a piece headlined, "Black Churches Push Back Against Trump-Fueled Anti-DEI Wave." Yeah, why would a black church need DEI? I mean, it's already a black church. What would DEI be there? Would hire a white guy? Is that because that would be diversity, wouldn't it? Hiring white guys at the black church. It's called a black church. You ever been to a white church? I've never been to a white church. What is up with that? Democrat Party. They are something. Yeah, black churches push back. They're always pushing back. Democrats always start the fight and they firebomb the Jews, and then when you call them on it, they say, "Well, we've got to push back," and then they firebomb something else because they are the party of the Molotov cocktail. But never mind that. Isn't it amazing? Mm-hmm. That's what she said. Black churches push back at Trump-fueled anti-DEI wave, which quoted from the notorious anti-Semite Al Sharpton. The Reverend Al Sharpton, remember he started that riot in Crown Heights, and at least one Jewish man was murdered by the mob of Democrats. Cheyenne Daniels has not criticized Sharpton for his role in inciting the 1991 Crown Heights riots, but has described Trump as a, quote, racist, homophobic, sexist, misogynistic president. That's uninterrupted. That's a direct quote there. She's also lauded Kamala Harris for refusing to attend a bipartisan event that honored Trump, saying the move is exactly why more POCs, P-O-C, that's people of color, because she's a dedicated racist and segregationist. POCs and women need to be included in decision-making. This is the woman who is covering the White House for a major Washington newspaper. Just amazing. And she wrote on Twitter, "Trump, oh, you don't deserve the truth people have thrown at you, ? Well, I don't deserve a racist, homophobic, sexist, misogynistic president." I think she's a little hung up on her melanin and genitalia. I'm just guessing. I don't know. She grew up in a Democrat society. All right, let's grab a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Mike calling from Bethesda, Maryland. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, good morning, Chris. A footnote to your recalling how President Obama had shut down the World War II memorial during an earlier government shutdown. That his barricades didn't stay in place very long because a group of veterans turned up at the World War II memorial and forcibly removed Obama's barricades, and they explained that they had found the beaches at Normandy closed too on D-Day.
That's good stuff, Michael. That is. Were you there when they were reopened?
No, I was out of town at the time, but I appreciated the gesture, and God bless America's veterans.
God bless America.
Of which I am one, First Special Forces Group.
Very nice. United States Army.
Yes.
Very good, my friend. Mike, saluting you, my friend. Saluting you. Great stuff. That's wonderful. And that's what Americans do. We go up, and that's right. Yeah, the beaches at Normandy were closed, too. Pointe du Hoc was closed. Boy, was it closed. And guess who reopened it? Guess who opened it up? Been there a couple of times myself with my best girl. Pointe du Hoc, the beaches in Normandy. I have in my rock collection at home, I have a glass vial of sand from Omaha Beach, part of my collection of rocks, a small collection of rocks from interesting locations, not just from the park down the street or anything. Thank you, Michael. Good stuff. Let's go back to the telephones, Michael. The President of the United States at the Marine Corps base at Quantico, Virginia today. Also, the Secretary of War Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. I don't know, you have to have Congress change the name of a department. I'm not sure exactly what the law is on that. But right now, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Greg calling from Bethesda, Maryland. Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Thanks, Chris. Love the show as always. Just wanted to say that, with this shutdown, this government shutdown, this has been in the plan. This has been the plan for a while by these Democrats. And in Maryland, Senator Also Brooks, I call her Also Crooks, she's planning to go to a very nice soiree in Napa Valley, California. I think it's like October 12th and 13th, along with Kristen Gillibrand. Actually, Politico is the one that got hold of the invite, this exclusive retreat where she'll be sipping $500 wine, probably eating caviar, and she's going to vote against the government being continued, for another 6 weeks. And that's going to result in thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people losing jobs, and a lot of Maryland families are going to get hammered. So I got to wonder what is it going to take for Maryland to wake up and realize that these Democrats put party over state, party over country every single time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man, that's very well done. That was great, to the point, and you're loaded for bear and ready to unload. That's wonderful stuff. Yeah, Democrats plan a luxury. Why else would it? It wouldn't go if it weren't a luxury retreat. As government shutdown threat looms over Congress, the 2-day October event at luxury resort in the Napa Valley with hot tubs and lots of views of rolling vineyards and so on includes dinner at a high-end organic restaurant. Organic. That's give me some real food. Give me some of those lamb chops over there. Give me some couscous. Give me something real good. Democrats have come under fire for planning a luxury jaunt to California's wine country, while Washington heads toward a possible government shutdown. Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the DSCC, they're like the Nazi Party. They wear armbands. Chaired by Senator Kristen Gillibrand, allegedly invited lawmakers to the expensive 2-day Napa retreat. It's good to be a Democrat once again, and the media will write about it glowingly.